The Wealth of Some Nations, section, Monopoly Rent and Metropolitan Wages. The present domination of the world economy by northern-based monopolies has dire consequences for the underdeveloped capitalist countries. Monopoly capitalism forces third-world producers to expend extra labor to pay, quote, imperialist rent, that is, super profits obtained through trade and investment based on profound global differentials in the prices of labor power of equal productivity. Imperialist rents, according to Amin, remove about half of the potential profits of the global south. Moreover, they exceed the capital that is annually invested in expanded reproduction of those societies, dramatically reducing their opportunities for investment in economic and social development. In 2004, for instance, the U.S. trade deficit alone consumed fully 80% of all global savings in the form of foreign purchases of U.S. municipal, state, and government bonds. Monopolistic price fixing ensures that extra surplus value is imported to the imperialist economy at the expense of the country against which the monopoly is exercised. Although Europe and North America no longer have unrivaled ownership of the planet's major means of production, along with Japan, they retain monopolistic control over the commanding heights of the global economy, in particular, commerce, finance, the extractive industries, military hardware, and intellectual property. The major imperialist countries also have a monopoly on high-wage labor and the mass markets this and this alone affords. On the one hand, imperialism encourages the outflow of capital from the metropolitan areas of the world economy, thus decreasing the demand for labor and, ceteris paribus, the price of labor power therein. At the same time, the purchase of low-priced commodities from the peripheral areas of the world economy raises the standard of living of metropolitan labor, either directly through increasing the purchasing power of wages, or indirectly by cheapening the cost of production of domestically produced wage goods. The mass markets thus established tend to attract capital to the metropolitan centers of the world economy, raising the demand for labor and hence wages therein. By and large, insofar as a mass market based on working-class consumption is precluded by the low wage levels prevailing in the countries of the global south, capital tends to accumulate at the centers of the world system. Meanwhile, as well as failing to establish the indispensable conditions for autochthonous market growth, cheap and abundant labor power encourages low capital intensity and, hence, a smaller percentage of skilled and highly skilled labor in the workforce. As Emmanuel put it, quote, cheap labor chases equipment and technicians from underdeveloped countries, while equipment and technicians replace labor in the developed countries. End quote. Capital accumulation requires consumer markets that it is only possible to grow if labor is adequately paid, and it follows that developing nations should primarily trade with one another insofar as the payment of equal wages internationally ensures that trading nations cannot thereby appropriate the wealth of others. As Smith writes, beginning of long quote, whenever possible, countries in the underpaid developing world should be trading with each other. If trading countries pay roughly equal wages for production of the products traded, neither confiscates the wealth of the other, and the efficiencies of the trade can function honestly. By trading with each other while building industry, developing nations with low-paid labor can develop their economies much more rapidly than when trading with a nation with high-paid labor. If labor is idle and the treasury empty, it always is in the dependent trading nation. That is the essence of a monopolized world economy. Raw material or semi-processed goods can be bartered for industries, technology, as opposed to trading those resources for trinkets. End of long quote. Conversely, under imperialism, the low-paid worker or nation must labor for a longer time to buy one unit of wealth from their high-paid counterpart, whereas the latter need only work a fraction of the time to buy 1 unit of wealth from the low-paid worker or nation. As such, a capital accumulation advantage results from a pay differential between equally productive workers globally. Smith provides the following example as an illustration. Beginning of long quote. The equally productive worker in the poorly paid third world produces a unique widget, is paid $1 an hour, and is producing 1 widget an hour. The equally productive worker in the developed world produces another unique widget, is paid $10 an hour, and produces 1 widget per hour. Each equally productive worker likes and purchases the other's widgets. All true costs are labor costs, so we ignore monopoly capital costs, which go to the developed world and only increases the advantage anyway, and calculate the cost of those widgets at the labor cost of production, $1 an hour and $10 an hour. The $1 an hour worker must work 10 hours to buy one of the widgets of the $10 an hour worker, but with the money earned in the same 10 hours, the $10 an hour worker can buy 100 of the widgets of the $1 an hour worker. While in a homogenized market of many producers, a mixture of high-paid and low-paid labor, there is a 10 times differential in buying power. At this 10 times wage differential, in direct trades between each other, or between countries, there is an exponential 100 times differential in the retained wealth. End of long quote. Indeed, a capitalist employing a worker at $20 per hour can sell and still make a profit, even when competing against capitalists employing workers at $1 per hour, as can be seen from the following useful example. Beginning of long quote. A capitalist takes $21 to pay for 1 hour of labor from worker A at $1 an hour, and 1 hour of labor from worker B at $20 an hour. The end result is a commodity which the capitalist sells for $36, yielding a profit of $15. In this case, labor in its abstract, or socially necessary form, creates $18 an hour in value, the full value of the commodity, $36, divided by the 2 hours which produced it. And this represents the value of labor. In this example, worker B is paid $20 for an hour of labor power. This price of labor power is higher than the value of labor. In this case, for 1 hour of work, worker B is able to purchase 1.11 hours of abstract labor. Consequently, worker A must work 18 hours to purchase the 1 hour of abstract labor. To clarify further, in this example, $17 in surplus value is exploited from worker A. The abstract value of labor, $18, minus the price of labor power paid as wages, $1. Of this $17, $15 is kept by the capitalist, and $2 is handed to worker B on top of the full value of labor. Functionally, worker B is an exploiter. End of long quote. According to Smith, the exponential capital accumulation advantage of the higher paid nation is equal to the high pay divided by the low pay squared, or WR divided by WP squared equals A, where WR is the wages paid to the equally productive labor in the rich country, WP is the wages paid to the equally productive labor in the poor country, and A is the capital accumulation advantage of the well-paid nation. In Smith's example above, if $10 is earned by the well-paid worker for every hour of her labor time, and $1 an hour is earned by the low-paid worker for every hour of her labor time, the capital accumulation advantage is 100 to 1. Whereas labor everywhere is equally capable of producing the same use values per hour, given equal access to the technology, training, and markets denied poor countries by the global North's monopolization of land, resources, technology, and high wages. Even today, the labor of workers in non-mechanized industries, such as strawberry pickers, janitors, guards, and so on, as well as a large part of the industrial labor of the global South, is of equal productivity around the world. Beginning of long quote. The product that export platform countries in the developing world are selling is not merely cheap labor, but highly productive labor. In Singapore, McGraw-Hill produces in 1 year an encyclopedia that takes 5 years to produce in the U.S. Mexican metal workers are 40% more productive than U.S. workers. Electronics workers 10 to 15% more productive. And seamstresses produce 30% more sewing per hour than their U.S. counterparts. End quote from Makijani. Smith concludes that, quote, whenever the difference in pay is greater than the difference in productivity, a part of the production of the low-paid worker or nation is transferred to the high-paid country. In order to purchase a part of the manufactured output of the most industrialized countries, largely produced using third-world resources, dependent societies must sell a larger share of their own accumulated wealth. Alongside money wasted on the purchase of the West's military goods and the corruption of comprador elites, the indebtedness of the global South increases, and, in turn, servicing that debt requires the sale of ever more resources. To maintain the resultant flow of uncompensated value transfer, the imperialist countries have denied other nations the use of technology and access to markets by means of monopolistic control of both. When any country threatens to make a decisive break in the imperialist chain of value creation and distribution, they are forcibly pushed back into line, as the history of foreign interventions over the past century and more amply attests. End of section.